The biggest challenge most home cooks face is what to do with the leftovers when the holidays are over. Today I'm going to show you a leftover turkey tetrazzini that won't disappoint and feels like something fresh and new. Join me in the kitchen and I'll show you how. So to get started on our tetrazzini, we're just going to go ahead and start by sauteing off some mushrooms. I've got 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms here. These are baby portobellos. You can use whatever kind of mushroom you like. And I'm just going to put them in the skillet here. I've got about 1.5 tablespoons of butter in here, and we're going to let these cook until they soften down, they release their water, then we'll season them and move on to the next step. Okay, so the mushrooms are starting to soften down, and now we're going to go ahead and add the salt. If you season a mushroom in the beginning, they release all of their liquid too quickly and they never get brown. So you want to make sure to do that after the water has started coming out and they are beginning to soften and they already have a little color on them. So these are ready for the next step. And what we're going to do is make everything right here in the pan. It's really, really simple. I'm going to actually add about 1/4 cup or so of flour. Now, if you're gluten-free, you can do this with a gluten-free flour. You can use a little blend of cornstarch. If you have specific questions about how to make this gluten-free, let me know, and I will answer those questions for you. So once you add the flour, you want to make sure that you stir it around for a minute, minute and a half or so, and let that flour begin to cook out just a little bit. You don't want to leave it with too many raw pockets or it will taste a little starchy for you. So just make sure you cook the flour down. So now let's go in with our liquids. This is 1.5 cups of milk, either 2/3 cup of either white wine or chicken broth, and then a full cup of chicken broth. If you don't use white wine, I can give you some adjustments for just adding a little extra chicken broth, and sometimes a little bit of lemon juice helps to add the acid that you need in here. So let me know if you need that adjustment, and I'll leave that in the description box as well. So pour that in. And essentially we're making a cream sauce here. So this is going to have to come up to a simmer, and once it thickens we will add the rest of our ingredients, but just make sure that you're stirring the whole time. This is one of those sauces that if you walk away from it or you leave it for a little bit, it can split. So just stand here and stir, and I will show you what it looks like when it thickens up. So it's starting to thicken up. It's been about 6 minutes or so, and I want to show you how you can kind of test your sauce to know when it's ready. So you can put a little sauce on the back of your spoon, and when you run your finger through it, it should hold a line and not drip, and that's how you know it's basically ready to go. So what I'm going to add next is just a little bit of seasoning. You know, anytime you're working with dairy and all this steam, it's a little bit bland, so don't be afraid to season it. I'm always using sea salt. It's got lots of trace minerals. That's really important for us, so make sure you use a good salt. I will give you all the exact measurements in the description box below, so don't worry if you're stressing over how much I'm putting in. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to do a little bit of pepper, always fresh pepper, or a lot of pepper maybe, more than a little. And we're going to stir that in. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit here. Then we're going to go in with fresh thyme. Now, thyme leaves, I think, are just fresh herbs are really important to use. And so this is something you can pick up at the grocery store really, really affordably. If you can't find just thyme, you can often find what's called a poultry blend that will have thyme in it. It's got rosemary and fresh sage leaves. You can just pull the thyme out and use that part, or you can always use dried if you can't get your hands on fresh. If you're using dried, make sure you use half as much because the oils are always much more concentrated and it'll be a lot stronger. So we're going to stir that in. It smells delicious. Okay, next is our cheese. I'm going to go ahead and just turn the heat off on this. This is 1.5 cups of Parmesan cheese. I really, really want you to use good quality fresh Parmesan, like a Parmigiano Reggiano, and not anything that's powdered in a can. There's just no flavor in that, and it has a lot of anti-caking agents in it that when you put it into a sauce like this, it can actually cause the whole thing to just seize up and clump, and we don't want that to happen. So stir your Parmesan in. It'll melt really quickly. Another delicious flavor. It smells so good. I'm going to go in with my turkey now. So this is my leftover turkey. You can put in as much as you like. A couple of cups or so is usually pretty good. If you're feeding really hungry eaters like I tend to just bump this up and put as much in as necessary to get everybody full. So in goes your turkey. Give that a stir. This recipe is actually really fabulous to double too. So I will often make twice as much put one in the freezer and save it for another dinner and just bake it from frozen. It's perfect for that. So in with some green, we need something green. Here goes some peas. Now I usually actually make this with broccoli. So you can use whatever vegetables you have. And if you have leftover vegetables from the holidays, just stir them in at the end here. It's perfectly fine. So we'll put the peas in, and they don't have to be thawed or anything like that. That was about 3/4 of a cup of those. Just toss them on in. And then a 1/2 pound of linguine. Again, any pasta. And when you cook your pasta, you're gonna want it to be a little bit al dente, you know, a little bit firm, because this is gonna go in the oven for a few minutes just to kind of cook up, and we want these pasta noodles to really soak up that sauce. So undercook them just a little bit so they can do that. Let me get this all mixed in. Oops, make sure you're filling it. It's a lot, so make sure you're using a really large skillet with deep sides. This is a made-in skillet. I moved to all stainless and cast iron a couple of years ago, and I really like this one, especially for making something that you want to put directly in the oven and then take out and eat right out of the pan. Okay, we're all stirred together. If you wanted to put some breadcrumbs on top of this, a little extra Parmesan before it goes in the oven, you can absolutely do that. I am going to just broil this a couple of minutes. I don't want to bake it so much that I make it dry. So I'm going to stick it under the broiler just until it gets golden on the top, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like. So we're out of the oven. I had it in the broiler for just 3 or 4 minutes to kind of put a little golden brown top on it, and it is bubbly and beautiful. Like I said, you can bake this, you know, for an extended 20-25 minutes if you'd like to, but it's done. There's no reason to make dinner any longer than you need to. So here we go. Super creamy. You really smell the thyme. You can really smell the white wine in there. It is one of our absolute family favorites, and like I said, because you can freeze this, this is something you can make ahead and keep for whenever you need it. For more ways to use your leftover turkey, check out this giant chicken meal prep video right here. It has tons of recipes in it and ways that you can use this super versatile ingredient. See you in the next video, guys.